Hello there, everybody. Hi, and welcome. We are here for our Strong Body, Strong Mind. This is a men's health webinar. It is a pleasure to have you be here tonight. Thanks for taking the time out. My name's Dr. Susan Plank, and just shortly I'll start the slides. I'll tell you, I usually do a monthly webinar. I like to allow you, the audience, to ask questions as we go along. So I'll do my best if you want to put a question in the chat. I also will have time at the end to answer questions, but I found that a lot of times as I'm going over certain information, it might trigger a question, it might trigger something that you want to know. So I'd rather have you not forget it, right? If we have to wait till the end. So even if I don't see it, but you put the question in the chat, I'll be sure to answer everything just as thoroughly as I can. So again, thanks so much for being here. My name's Dr. Susan Plank. I've been in business for 30 years, helping people nutritionally, holistically find the root cause of what's been holding them back. I've been blessed to be able to help thousands of people through hormone balance and weight loss and checking testosterone, other hormones, blood sugar. So whatever it is, my goal is to always find the root cause and then try to correct things as naturally as possible. So let's go ahead and get started here, okay? And here we go. Okay, so we've sort of gone through the introduction here, so I am going to just go ahead and dive in. And again, if you're joining us late, my name's Dr. Susan Plank. Please don't hesitate to put any questions you have in the chat, okay? So here's sort of one of the issues, guys. Just gotta love you, but men tend to go to the doctor less than women. The fact is that men go to the doctor less than women, and it accounts in research, it actually accounts for a shortening of men's lifespan. So men, they're saying the research is men don't live as long because some of these conditions aren't found out. And so, you know, only you can answer that sort of why, but I like to delve into that because you're taking the time to be here tonight. So obviously you want the information. So, you know, I always want to challenge, is it sort of an ego, a macho-ness, which, you know, that's thrown around out there in research. I just don't see that to be true. There's fear. I think that is a possibility, a fear of the unknown, a fear of what might be found out. Discomfort. You know, you guys, you have to go through the prostate exam and stuff, and that's no small course of action there. So it can make you feel uncomfortable, and you know, it can hold you back from getting the information that you need. So the bottom line is we have to look at the facts, and that men do, and it's at a pretty high rate. It's about 50%. Men, the visits that men go versus women, it's about 50% less for men than women. So my goal here tonight is to empower you, but also to have you realize that when we do the right labs, when we find out the root cause of issues, you can be more empowered to take your health into your own hands. And let's say you don't necessarily need to be poked and prodded as much as possibly what you have been. So an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. It's just a wonderful saying. But here's some statistics for you. Only 3 out of 5 men typically get a yearly checkup. 12% of men over the age of 18 consider themselves, this is themselves, rating poor or fair health. Okay, 40% of men only go to the doctor when they fear something extremely serious, and 34% of men over the age of 20 are obese and or overweight. So again, these sort of health concerns are mounting, and we can't just sort of turn a blind eye, because not only just for men, it's a little bit higher in you guys, but nationally, it's 1 out of every 2 people has hypertension and develops heart disease. So it's obviously not just a male issue, but that obviously is our focus here this evening. So I want to talk various different conditions, heart disease risks. You might already know that heart disease is a leading cause of death among men. Unfortunately, this has not changed for the last 100 years. You heard me right. 100 years, heart disease has been the top killer of men year in and year out. And when I look at these research statistics, sometimes I sort of I'm surprised I don't fall off my seat, because when I stop to think lately how much money is thrown into, different medicines and research and all these things, and it still hasn't changed. And so for that reason, I started on this functional nutrition career of sort of, I think people need to be more empowered in what they need to do to be able to take care of themselves. So that is a big, big part of this, because what we're seeing statistically and the money being thrown at issues, we're just not seeing the best bang for the buck that's being spent. So I think we have to sort of delve into these things a little bit more personally, not think that, hey, just a prescription or a pill is going to be the answer to the problem. So high blood pressure, elevated LDL cholesterol, and smoking are the key risk factors for men and heart disease. And so I want to implore you, please, if you are a smoker, please try to quit. Do whatever you can to minimize that. There's hypnosis, there's nicotine gum, there's patches. Use any or all of them if you have to, but smoking continues to be the highest risk factor, not only for cardiovascular disease, but for virtually every type of cancer that we're seeing. But these same risk factors also put you at a higher risk for diabetes, being overweight and obese, a poor nutritional diet. You don't realize the effects of nicotine and how it depletes the body of nutrients, but also deadens taste buds. These things cause physical inactivity, and we also have to worry about excessive alcohol consumption as well. So the best way to protect your heart is to get regular screenings, but I'm going to talk about that even a little bit later, that there are some fantastic labs and blood work that should be done on every single one of you, that it's just not happening. And I'd like to see that change. And so that's why I'm here to give you that information. So number one with heart disease, where is your blood pressure? Do you have a good understanding of your blood pressure? You might want to invest in a home unit, a blood pressure cuff. These have gotten easier and easier to use. The accuracy, it still tends to be between about 3 to 5%, but in all honesty, the accuracy of a home blood pressure monitoring device is actually more accurate than having it taken in a doctor's office. You actually should be sitting still, sitting and or laying down for 5 minutes without talking, without moving, before your blood pressure is taken. And I don't know about you, but typically you're sort of ushered in from the waiting room, right? You sit down, and virtually almost immediately they're asking you questions. Maybe they've taken your weight, but as soon as you sit in the chair, the blood pressure cuff goes on, and that is improper technique. So other things with blood pressure, we know that increases with age, and specifically over the age of 60. We see it really start around 45 for men was when it starts to increase. So salt, if you're in that age range or getting older, what's your salt intake? Blood work usually has potassium level on there. Make sure you have a good potassium level. Watch the amount of alcohol. Okay, please do that. If you're not moving, if you tend to be more sedentary, especially if you have a desk job or you have to sit, travel, salesman, um, they have actually a higher risk of hypertension. Truck drivers, because they're more sedentary. So also, if you're carrying around too much weight and or you have a family history of hypertension. So again, screening, it's very, very simple. I believe the cost of those units, and they're all very similar. I think they're down around sort of like $30. So you can get a great unit. I just ask that you start to do it sort of at specific times of the day and do it consistently. And it's a good idea then, if that's something that you're going to do, take those readings with you when you go to your doctor's appointment. In case that's what happens, is you sort of rush through when your blood pressure's taken and it doesn't match what you've had the luxury of being in your comfortable home. Then you can pull out a little notebook and say, well, guess what? This is what I've been tracking, first thing in the morning before I go to bed at night. And these are the readings I've had. So we can get a much more accurate picture of what's going on with hypertension. Cholesterol. Cholesterol is one actually that I guess, I'm not the typical nutritionist. It seems like high cholesterol, we should run around like our hair is on fire. In all honesty, cholesterol it's an antioxidant. It's actually produced by the body as a protective measure. But what happens with our Western diet being more inflammatory, so again, salt, high in sugar, more fried foods, inflammatory foods, those types of things, it will oxidize cholesterol. So cholesterol in and of itself is not a bad thing, but oxidized cholesterol is now what becomes dangerous. And so we'll start to see that LDL increase. The activity level relates more to the HDL, which is sort of generally known as the healthier, right? The healthier form of cholesterol is the HDL. So that you can improve with diet, but even more so aerobic and resistive exercises. So with a band or weights. And triglycerides, so you know, triglycerides, when I see those elevated, are much more related to someone eating more processed foods. So something more fast food or something from a store that's prepackaged, microwaved, processed, those types of things. So when we start to connect the type of cholesterol, triglycerides, LDL, the total cholesterol, when we start to look at what number is errant, sometimes they all are, but if it's too high, we can now start to zero in specifically on what are some dietary changes that we can make to help change that cholesterol. If somebody wants to work with me, I've seen total cholesterol and LDL drop in folks 40% in 30 days. So it really is related to diet. There's some fantastic supplements also that can be very, very helpful, but diet is the primary factor of what we want to look at of getting changed. Okay. So again, it's going to really be about the blood vessels. And again, cholesterol can be lowered with diet and some exercise and some supplements. But I want to let you know this as well. We'll talk about this a little bit later. Cholesterol is the backbone of what our hormones are made out of. So more and more, I'm seeing guys that have been given Lipitor, other cholesterol lowering drugs. And what happens is they drive the cholesterol so low that now it affects their body's ability to actually make testosterone. So the form of the hormone is made from cholesterol. So I have a limit, right? That nutritionally, I never want to see that cholesterol. Do we want to get it lower? Yeah, under 200. I'm good. I know they raised the limit. Can't be above. You can't be above 200. But if we get it around 200, we're good. I'd like much more to see ratios. I want to see what the ratios are between the total cholesterol and the triglycerides, between the total cholesterol and the LDL. But I don't want it to go below 165, 170 for most guys, because now it's going to inhibit your body's ability to make testosterone. And we're seeing testosterone decrease now around the age of 30. It starts to decrease 1% a year. Now, we're looking at research of, does it sort of bottom out and then it sort of plateaus for a guy? But if we stop to look at from 30 to 50, 30 to 60, right? You're losing 20 to 30% of your testosterone. It's no surprise then for a guy in his 50s and 60s to start feeling more fatigued, to not be able to get the same benefits out of exercise and going to the gym, and almost sort of like, what's the point? To lose that endurance, to lose the libido. So we want to make sure that we do things the smart way. We don't want to just sort of force down cholesterol with a medication and then have all these other effects you're suffering from because it's driven your testosterone and your total testosterone so low. That definitely is not our goal, right? So, okay, let's move on. Diabetes then. So men actually develop diabetes slightly more frequently than women do. In fact, the Center of Disease Control and Prevention, 14% of the men in the United States have been diagnosed with diabetes, and it's only 11% for women. It's a slight change, but when you start to compare this diabetes risk with the heart disease risk and the longevity issue, this really now starts to bring in multiple other risk factors that we have to start to pay attention to. So some of the symptoms of diabetes is skin infections that don't heal, excessive tiredness. Like, boy, each day you wake up and you're thinking, oh man, I had more energy when I went to go to bed than I do right now. Poor dental health, a lot of cavities, maybe you've had to have some teeth pulled, right? The bacteria. So we're seeing the bacteria of the mouth can actually start to affect heart disease and diabetes. Inability to attain or sustain an erection, overactive bladder, and also blurred vision. So again, keep in mind that because guys typically are not going as frequently for doctor's appointments, for checkups necessarily, then you're not necessarily getting the labs done. The labs that I see coming in aren't as thorough as they should be. So we're really missing some information that we need to be able to see to make decent recommendations to do things as naturally as possible. So, of course, we're going to talk about testosterone. So, testosterone is the primary hormone sex hormone for men. Men and women have testosterone and have estrogen. What we have is testosterone is a precursor for estrogen. Okay. What happens is for guys, the hormone testosterone, most of that they produce should stay as testosterone, with a little bit being converted, about 8 to 10% being converted to estrogen. And then that is actually taken out of the body through the digestive system. For women, it's just the opposite. Okay. They'll have testosterone, but then it converts and it's more estrogen. Now, it gives us the physical and the sex characteristics of each sex, right? But we also have to look at, and I have a weekly radio show, I was just talking about this earlier today, that when we take into account that men's testosterone is starting to decrease at 1% a year at the age of 30, but unfortunately now we're starting to see our environment, our actual environment, become more toxic, more chemicals, more pesticides. Look at the food, the wrapping of the food, everything's in plastic, right? The microwavable, like we talked about. All those things, there's actually things known as plasticizers. But these chemicals, we're finding, believe it or not, that they're making it into the water system out in nature. And there was a study done, it was about 20 years ago now, that they found in the Potomac River male fish that started to also produce eggs as a female would do. So what's happening then is now I start to become worried, not only for guys at such a young age to start that sort of slow drip of testosterone, right? Each year losing some, losing some, losing some. But now compound that with these chemicals that are known as obesogens, because they can actually cause obesity, but the more serious endocrine disruptors. And so what they do is a hormone sort of comes into a receptor. So it's sort of like think of it like a satellite dish, and and the hormone comes in and binds. And the hormone is a communicator that's going to tell that cell, that gland, what the receptor is connected to, what it needs to do, what function it needs to take. But what happens is these chemicals known as endocrine disruptors, they're either blocking that receptor, all of it or part of it, to where the hormone can't come in and have a nice solid connection, or they're actually changing the function of the hormone. So now we're getting missignaling. So not only am I worried for guys, as they age, with the decrease of testosterone that needs to be able to be present, the bind with a receptor, but now I'm worried about the integrity of the testosterone, but also its ability to be able to bind to that receptor. So again, this is not strictly just for men, but we're seeing this happen now, younger and younger generations. So sort of some of the symptoms that we would associate, or we did with our fathers or our grandparents or grandfather, aging is maybe the hair starts to thin and a receding hairline. Maybe they weren't, they weren't as buff, right? They lost the muscle in their chest, their legs weren't as big, right? And they just didn't have that stamina, and they just went, Well, what's happening, right? We're seeing all these effects now because then we didn't have this proliferance of toxins and chemicals as we do now. And my fear is we're going to start to see this generation to generation actually skew this, and it happen earlier and earlier to men. So I appreciate you guys being here. But if you have, sons, grandsons, nephews, this is an issue that we're seeing in younger and younger males. The testosterone levels are less and less the younger they are, even into their 20s, which is when they should really truly be at their prime. We're just not seeing that anymore. And it's unfortunate, but I think a lot of that has to be associated with what's going on with our food supply, but also just the pure amount of chemicals and processed foods, what is contained in them. So, prostate cancer. So, I want to let you know. I'm sorry. I wanted to let you know with prostate cancer that it's nearly 50% of all men over the age of 50 have what's known as PIN, P-I-N, and that stands for prostatic intraepithelial neoplasia. Now, it's not out and out cancer, but what it is it's a changing in the function of the cells of the prostate. And so it's that many, it's 50% of all men over the age of 50 that we really have to start to watch. So again, when we look at the health of the prostate and the level of testosterone, we want to make sure that all these levels are balanced and being being properly cared for. Now, I also want to let you know that when you have a prostate exam, if you can see me here, and you can see this part of my thumb. And so what's happening when you have a digital exam, they're going in to check your prostate. That's what it should feel like. It should be firm, but it should have some give to it. So and there could actually be two lobes. There's a little crease there and sort of two lobes for it. Okay. And so when you have a digital prostate exam, that's what they're feeling for. Okay. Can it be palpated? Can they feel it? Is it firm, but it has give to it? And can they feel that groove, that crease? So sometimes now we've gotten away from guys having the prostate exam, and they go more for the test of the PSA, prostate specific antigen, but that pressure and being able to feel whether the prostate is inflamed can be very, very helpful in being able to recognize things early enough where, again, the testing it sometimes is not necessarily as sensitive or specific as being able to feel the challenges, feel the changes. So I wanted to talk to you then about the screening review. And, if you have some paper and a pen handy, you might want to write this down. This is the way I look at things naturally and sort of the way that things should get checked. So annual screenings. So for prostate cancer, I want you to start at the age of 50. Okay. Colorectal cancer starting at the age of 45. I want you to see a dermatologist, get checked for any skin cancer, and high blood pressure also those two at the age of 45 as well. And cholesterol, because they're getting a little heavy with the cholesterol meds, I prefer that guys get started with that at the age of 35, so we can definitely check that and make sure everything is healthy and normal, especially if they've been put on any cholesterol lowering medication. Diabetes screening, I want done every 3 years, but I want that starting at 45 years old. And also, we can't forget about the eyes, glaucoma. Okay, guys, glaucoma is another one. Have that checked when you go. If you're wearing glasses, contacts, but under the age of 40, it should be every 2 to 4 years. 40 to 54 is 1 to 3 years. And over the age of 55 is every year or two, or like I said, whenever you're going to get new specs, right? New contacts, new specs, whatever's going on there. So, so I now want to talk to you about preventative strategies. And again, this is so important because this is the empowering part of it. You get to be involved. And in all honesty, I hate to say it, but right now, it's probably not a bad idea to be more involved in your healthcare. that keep track, not only, like I just said, of sort of when you should get tested to have an idea what you should be looking for, but every meal you're eating, everything you're putting in your mouth, it's going to have an effect on some aspect of your health. And so it's just so vitally important that we start to make a connection between heart disease and diabetes, right? And prostate. And it's all because of the testosterone level. And some of you are kind enough to go ahead and fill out a sort of a little survey questionnaire that I sent out when you registered. And to see the number of guys that have never had their testosterone checked, it really is mind-boggling to me, but it's not necessarily surprising. I've worked with couples for fertility, and neither one was ever checked. Their hormone levels were never checked. I just can't honestly get my mind around why docs seem to sort of poo-poo or stay away from hormones. But this is a hats off to, honestly, most guys, because if you notice that you're feeling weaker or more tired, or a change in erectile function, your libido, you typically, when you go to the doc, have no problem mentioning it. I wish that your wives and that women in your life were as active and voicing their displeasure with some of those things, but unfortunately they aren't. But again, we really want to start to look at what can we do dietary wise to get moving, right? What supplements, what do you need to do to take care of your health? Now, I want to bring up, because most guys at some point or another have tried the keto, Keto, keto diet. It tends to be very popular with guys, right? What's not to love? A lot of red meat, lots of protein, lots of cheese, right? Who doesn't love that? Well, unfortunately, guys, those are all things that are very highly inflammatory. And so a lot of times, if you have tried the keto diet, again, we have that where you have to eat very little carbs, right? You can lose a ton of weight, and guys do tend to lose it a little bit easier and faster than women. But we have to worry about those food choices because, in all honesty, logically, it doesn't make sense that you can eat as much red meat and as much cheese as you want and then not worry about your cholesterol level or inflammation or having some other effect on your body. And sooner or later, because it's not a balanced, it's not a balanced approach to eating. When you do eat some carbs, hey, I'm going to have a couple slices of pizza. You wake up the next day and it's like, I just gained 7 pounds from 3 pieces of pizza because your body's just going to latch onto those carbs when you finally do eat them. So we want to look at a more balanced dietary approach. I'm a fan of an anti-inflammatory paleo. That's typically what I use in my weight loss programs. And we can start to see the weight come off really pretty quickly in the first week to 10 days. We get joint inflammation down, we get the energy up. And then as we get someone feeling better, can we start to increase and introduce some type of exercise program? But a lot of folks just aren't there. Then they're carrying around too much weight, or they have such cardiovascular risk factors that I'm not necessarily comfortable having them exercise right from the start. But I still need a way to start to get them to feel better and get the weight off. So again, I just can't reiterate this enough. Please, if you are a smoker, please just kick it, break the habit. You just gotta do it for yourself. You gotta do it for those that love you. And that's the thing with smoking, right? It's not just your own health, but you're affecting, wherever that smoke goes, you're affecting everybody's health around you. So yeah. So here we go. So again, I know a lot of folks really love the keto diet, but I go in a little bit more of a different direction, an anti-inflammatory paleo. I like folks to get natural food, to learn to eat. My biggest thing is if weight loss is an issue, it's always I want to make the person healthier. That's why I'm sort of such a stickler about getting labs done. And I have this saying of like, if you're not testing, you're guessing, right? You're not testing, you're guessing. We need to know what's not working in your body, what's not working in your metabolism. If it's an energy issue or a blood sugar issue, or they want to put you on cholesterol meds, whatever it is, we need to have an idea of everything that's going on, and then we want to do it as naturally as possible. So again, on keto, we're putting all our eggs in one basket, and you're not going to be able to take advantage of all these great fruits and vegetables, especially at this time of year. So it's one that can work, but I don't necessarily, I'm speaking keto now, but I don't necessarily see it as sustainable. It's just virtually impossible if you've lost a ton of weight to now keep it off, because eating keto long term is actually, not recommended for some of the hormonal issues that we're seeing either. Okay. So again, managing the weight, we have to have a multi-pronged approach. We have to know where the blood sugar is. Hormone balance and enough testosterone is very important. Are we dealing with fatty liver? Unfortunately, for guys, the weight tends to be all around the belly, around the belly button. That's the most dangerous type of weight, because chances are it's not just on the outside, but that fat then can go in and around the organs, and it puts a strain on those organs. Women tend to carry weight differently, but for guys, it tends to be in your belly. But again, you can lose it usually pretty quickly. But is it deeper? Is it affecting your liver ability to function, to filter things out? And again, movement, we have to have a whole body approach. And that's where I've been blessed. Now, this is my third year of every client that has joined me, one of my programs to lose weight, 100%. I'm so proud of that. 100% have lost weight. You have to understand, even when people say they want to lose weight, they typically want to, cheat or do something else. So I am just so proud of that number. But also too, it's a little bit more serious, for guys. What are my views? Here's a question here. What are my views on intermittent fasting? I honestly am not a fan of intermittent fasting. Number one, what I see is, and let me sort of preface it. It depends why the person is doing intermittent fasting. Typically, it is an attempt to try to lose weight. So I think intermittent fasting is sort of a clock, a timed way to control calories. But the problem I truly have with it is most people, and when I say most, I'd say 80% of the clients that come to me and their goal is to lose weight, they're already not eating enough. So the medical profession has sort of failed them, because they just sort of keep touting this: you have to eat less and exercise more. And so what I have then is people that are trying to go to the gym and trying to stay, active, but they're eating less and less. And that alone will really shut down hormone production, but also shut down energy levels. So I typically am not a fan of intermittent fasting. It really depends, if there's some other belief system that the person has. I always try to work with what they would like to do. But typically, I want 3 meals a day going in, and then I still want 2 additional sources of protein. So I'm trying to get 5 lean proteins a day into somebody, so we can start to make sure that they don't get hungry. The worst thing about dieting, right? You get hungry, you're already giving up things that you like to eat, that you like the taste of, but then you get hungry on top of it. Like, who Who's going to do that, right? Nobody wants to do that. So you want to keep that blood sugar stable, because as that blood sugar goes high and then starts to drop, that's where the cravings kick in. That's when somebody starts really thinking about, oh boy, I could eat this, back up the truck, baby, bring it on. So yeah, and so I'm happy to, if you have any, other questions there, or something a little bit deeper about intermittent fasting, I'd be thrilled to answer for you, or try to answer it for you. So definitely to get moving. Now, again, here's the thing. We have to make sure that what's going into the body, the food and the nutrients going in, and then what the body is doing with it, right? So that's sort of the problem I have with that erroneous medical equation of eat less and exercise more. It's limit calories and then burn off as much as you can. And it sounds brilliant, right? It sounds like, well, yeah, of course, that makes sense, but it doesn't work. And in that simple equation of eat less and exercise more, nobody's taking into account what is happening in the body, what's going on with that person's metabolism. And so there's so many different factors we have to look at. Like I said, detoxification. Can they get rid of these chemicals? And trust me, you could be eating organic food every meal all the time. These chemicals now are everywhere. They're in the rain, they're in the soil, they're everywhere. So we have to have a plan to be able to get rid of them, right? Blood sugar and energy. Where's your thyroid? Is your thyroid optimal, right? What's going on with your other hormones? I see guys that, I've gone to get, testosterone injections, and when we do actually, but they've never had a testosterone test. And so when we do testing, now I end up seeing that the testosterone is actually turning into estrogen, because remember, that's the pathway. Our bodies aren't meant to, women aren't meant for a huge surge of estrogen, and guys aren't meant for a huge surge of testosterone. So to get an injection of testosterone to help balance things out, it just freaks your body out. It's freaking your receptors out, and your body's going to try to metabolize it as quickly as it can, and it's going to turn it into estrogen. So, then we can start to have guys take on more feminine characteristics. They can become more emotional. That weight change, instead of just being in the belly, can be of the hips and the buttocks. We can have men that actually start to develop breast tissue. So this can be because of those chemicals that we talked about, but I've also seen it in my clients that have gone medically to get testosterone injections. So we want to make sure, right? We want to make sure that we're looking at the whole person. We want to take in family history. What's going on? Do we have to worry about more heart and blood sugar, diabetes? What's going on with the whole person? Oh, absolutely. Hey, thank you. Thanks for asking the question. You betcha. So, but to get moving, I have folks start off very simple. In fact, the first thing, if you're not exercising now, it's to find time in your schedule. And it's like, honestly, it's like you're not going to start tomorrow. It's like, let's start looking ahead the next week, the next 2 weeks. Where in your schedule can you consistently fit? How much time? Can you fit 15 minutes? Can you fit 30 minutes? We have to start off with the basics. And the basics for some folks, a lot of my clients that come to me, they have very serious cholesterol or some other health issues. And so we have to start off really with more gentle exercise. And that is honestly just walking. It's one of the best exercises you can do. But I need to make sure that, again, looking at the person's whole life, looking at their whole lifestyle, where can we fit exercise in? How can we fit in healthy eating if somebody's used to calling a delivery service or picking up, fast food? We have to make the plan work for the individual so we can get the desired results. So alcohol, guys, you get to actually consume for women now. I think it's down to one glass. It's maybe one glass of, I think it's a red wine a day is permitted. Guys, I think you're two drinks a day. So it would be sort of 14 in a week. In my program, I try to teach folks if you are a drinker, if you do like the a good Manhattan. My dad was always a Manhattan drinker. Manhattan martini. My biggest thing is looking at what is the sugar content of the alcohol. The other thing for guys is really, again, because of that, the sort of the belly that we're worried about and all the hormones. So your testosterone is actually activated and metabolized by processes in the liver. I want to make sure that the liver is healthy so the liver enzymes are normal. And if that turns out okay, I have absolutely no problem whatsoever with alcohol consumption, but we absolutely have to look at that it is going to be sort of empty calories for you. And we want to make sure that the alcohol you are consuming isn't filled with a lot of sugar, right? So we really want to make sure that some of these mixed drinks, like say margarita, right? It would knock your socks off if you saw how much sugar actually is in the sweet and sour mix to make a margarita. And let me take this sort of away from alcohol, but a step further is some folks trying to get sort of that protein in, doing a smoothie, thinking they're healthy. It's the sugar even from fruit. So if somebody starts off with a blender and hey, I have my favorite protein mix and I'm making myself my excellent smoothie in the morning, so I can rush out the door to get to work, and that but maybe they're putting in the whole banana, and then they're putting in some strawberries, and they're putting in pineapple, and I've had this happen quite frequently where there's a disconnect for folks of where the sugar is coming from. And so a lot of this whole sort of trying to do things more naturally is realizing you can enjoy the foods. You absolutely can enjoy the foods. You can enjoy a good stiff drink, but we want to make it to where we're really looking at what are the damning and damaging parts of that food or of that beverage, and what do we need to be able to do to help you live the life, right, and have the lifestyle you want to do, but do it in a healthier way. That's really what we're looking to do. So stress, we cannot, and please don't discount stress. I bet you if I ask each and every one of you, if I had the opportunity to talk to each one of you, I bet you each one of you guys, if I said, "Oh, do you have any stress in your life?" "Oh, no, not me. No stress. And it's just, come on, guys, right? You got financial stress. You have family stress. The kids might be sick. You might be worried about your partner, your wife. You're afraid of getting old, but you tend to hold it all in, right? That stiff upper lip type of thing. And so, I have these sort of specialized hormone testing that I can do where we actually do it on saliva. It's a little kit, and we'll get readings. Cortisol is known as a stress hormone, and it will actually cause more weight to be gained around the belly fat. And so we'll get readings throughout the day done on saliva so we can see where stress levels are and see what time of day, if it is more stressful than another. And it usually is. So that can be just a wonderful, really great test to have done. But the other part of that test is, we're going to check your testosterone level, but out of these adrenal stress hormones, cortisol keeps us going, right? Gets us awake in the morning. But there's this other one, DHEA, that helps us stay balanced, right? It pulls us back down. But that DHEA is now the precursor for testosterone. And remember, testosterone is a precursor for estrogen. So what we have happen is if you've suffered loss, maybe you lost a wife or a child or a parent that you were connected to. Maybe, you filed bankruptcy, you lost your job. The pandemic was just horrendous on everybody. That the folks coming out of it, that is probably one of the top things I'm concerned about now that I wasn't as concerned about before, is I just see these stress hormones at higher levels now than I ever did see before the pandemic. So it is out there, it is a problem, but it's a sort of a double down for you guys, because if that cortisol keeps sort of getting push, stress, and that DHEA is the seesaw trying to pull that cortisol down, that DHEA starts to get depleted. The guy will start to get fatigued, not sleep as well, but also then with less DHEA, he inherently cannot make the testosterone that he was able to make when it was at a higher level. So stress sort of hits you guys in multiple ways, much more directly. Like I said, for women, we have that intermediary, goes testosterone to estrogen. But for you guys, it's a direct, it's a next step down from those stress hormones than what converts into testosterone. So we have to be aware of any stresses going on in your life. And maybe it is health. Maybe it is, hey, I want to feel better. Maybe it's, I'm 55, 60 years old, and I can't imagine living another 20 or 30 years because I just don't feel well now. Any of those things are sort of a constant health issue, are a stress, right? They put pressure on you of what can you do? I don't have a plan. How do I feel better? And that's what we want to look at to help you through. So thank you so much. I appreciate it. I appreciate you being here. Again, if you have any other questions, I'd love to be able to answer them for you. I did want to throw out to you guys, I have a lab special for you. It's $389. I use my friends at LabCorp, and so what we would be doing is we would get the testosterone, we get your blood drawn, we'll send you a requisition, right? We're getting your cholesterol all checked. We're getting a really good overall, right? Everything pretty much that I talked about today, we're getting checked. And also one that the apolipoprotein, these apolipoprotein A and B, these are the tests that should be done on every single one of you. It lets us know, it's a predictive marker of, are you at risk for a cardiovascular event in the near future, in your next 3 to 5 years? Who doesn't want to know that? If you haven't been motivated before to find the time or the energy or the know-how to take care of yourself, imagine when I do that testing on my folks that I work with, in my weight loss program, and it comes back elevated. As you can see, this is all I'm going to tell you. This is a gentleman that this is his actual results. So we started here. This column was in April. This column is in June. And so you can see what we did naturally, how we increased his testosterone 20%, 20% naturally in 10 weeks. DHEA, right? And the higher we get the DHEA, the more it's going to convert to testosterone, right? We increase that 16%. This apolipoprotein, so April 12th, he was at an increased risk. It was going to happen. It's predictive. Predictive. It's going to happen. 3 to 5 years, heart attack or stroke. It's going to happen. Look where his reading is, 68. 68. 10 weeks. All right. Amazing. And again, here's his weight. So what happens is I work with people remotely, so we hook people up. They get a smart scale. So he would step on a scale every day, right? And here you can see he started out, he was 270, and here's all the dates, right? As of this morning, 240, 30 pounds, 10 weeks. Amazing. Truly, truly amazing. So, guys, I'm here for you. You have some sort of unique issues going on. I want to make sure that we get your energy up, get you feeling better. Maybe you want to lose a few pounds. Maybe you just want to know. Maybe you've never had your testosterone checked and you just want to know. I would love to be able to have the chance to talk to you and get that information for you. So again, thanks so much for being here. I'll check one more time. Any questions? Nope. All right, guys. Thanks a bunch. Take care. I will be sending out a link for the video if you want to watch the replay or check on anything. But if there's any questions, please don't hesitate to be in touch. My name's Dr. Susan Plank. It's been a real pleasure. Thank you. Have a good night. Take care now. Bye.